Good morning, everybody. Dave Schmidt along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner. And it's an exciting day here on the State Line Sports Hour. We're going to be doing a whole show with one of the coaching legends in Rockford. That's why I like to call him. Coach Steve Goers is with us today. He's in studio. And, Coach, thanks for coming out. You said you had to milk the cows before you came. I think you were giving me the business, weren't you, a little bit?
Yes, I was giving you the business a little bit. This is early.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
For a guy that's retired, it's real early.
Yeah. Well, you know, being a coach, you probably had some early mornings, didn't you, in your lifetime?
Oh, yes. We've had a lot of early mornings. Really more than the summertime, too. Mm-hmm. You had that crazy schedule where you have to go to all these different tournaments throughout the state in the summertime. You get up and waiting for your players to show up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
So you ought to feel at home today with this.
Well, yeah, but it's been a while.
Yeah, you sometimes use those early mornings too, like those early Saturdays, as a punishment if Friday didn't go quite the way you wanted to, right?
That's true too. That's true too.
We're going to talk about your whole career and everything. I was able to follow up and do some stats and things, and it's just amazing. But you know what? I love Hoosiers, the movie Hoosiers, and I think your first head coaching job is kind of a Hoosier situation, wasn't it? You were at Bardolph. I mean, who starts at Bardolph? That was, 50 kids in the school?
57 kids in the school. We had, I think, like 29 boys and, and 28 girls. And we actually had 21 boys involved in the basketball program.
Nice.
On two different levels. And it was a unique experience. In fact, I know most of your listeners won't be able to remember this because it's a long time ago, but if you did see Hoosiers, you saw the clock on the wall with the sweep hand going around, and then when it gets to the last minute, it went to red. Mm-hmm. We had one of those clocks.
Yeah.
And probably one of my most favorite stories about Bardolph is the last game of the regular season, we played a team. And we weren't supposed to beat them, and we ended up beating them, and it was our seventh win of the year. Go Bardolph. I think we were 7-14 that year. And coach of the team, his name was Carol Herman, who later on went on and coached junior college basketball by Peoria. And game was over, and we were celebrating in our little locker room, and Carol came into the locker room and says, Steve, it's bad enough you beat us, but at least we have some hot water. and we had a coal, hot water heater was run by coal. You had to throw coal in there.
Oh, my word.
Yeah,
yep.
This is a long time ago. Okay.
68, wasn't it? 1968.
Dave, you were young then.
Yes, I was. I was very young, Coach. I remember some of that.
Yeah. So I go down. I got my shirt and tie on, and I go down to the boiler room, and we have one custodian here, and he's just he's sitting on the ground on this floor, passed out with a bottle next to him. And so I rolled up my sleeves and stoked that sucker up and started it going. So Carol Herman and his team was Bowen back there. That's long gone too. It's going to have some hot water showering.
That's a great story.
So what led you to Bardolph, and what did you get out of that? Starting off your coaching career.
What led me to Bardolph was that Bardolph was it's part of the Macomb School District right now, and the only school in the state that would give me any degrees was Western, and I have three degrees. They're all from Western, so I spent a lot of time in my life in Macomb.
Sure.
And when I was finished on my master's, the job opened up, and I had worked at the Macomb YMCA after I got out of the Army, because I was in the Army a couple of years, and got to Macomb, fellow XGI, was running a Y, and I got into working in the schools and working with the kids, and I realized I had a passion for coaching. So I got this job at Bardolph, and which was like 6 miles from Macomb. I was finishing up my master's part-time, because full-time job naturally. And I taught world history, U.S. history, driver's education, PE, taught taught baseball in the fall, coached baseball in the fall, baseball in the spring, coached track in the spring, and coached all levels of basketball in the wintertime, and got paid $5,600.
Yeah, man, you were in the money, weren't you, Coach?
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know what to do with all that money.
Before we're talking with Steve Goers, the former head coach at Boylan, all-time leading wins leader, second. He retired as the all-time wins leader. But you had a really good experience before you went to Bardolph. You were at Quincy as assistant coach, and I think they won a state championship when you were there, didn't they?
Quincy was a phenomenal experience, and in fact, I went from Bardolph to Crete-Monee for 1 year. Okay, now what I learned at Bardolph was how much I didn't know. Okay, as a young first-year coach, and just jump into it. So I actually would have stayed at Bardolph. One of my lifelong friends who and played for me at that team, Kent Watson. I hated leaving that team. In fact, Ken passed away about 14 months ago, or something like that. And but anyways, I didn't want to leave that team, but I realized I needed to. So I went up to Crete-Monee for 1 year. And I was up at Crete-Monee, and I taught elementary PE up there, and I was like assistant sophomore coach, and I coordinated a grade school program in the weekends where I met little kids and had like a camp every Saturday. But what happened was I was putting in a lot of time, and the head coach was the head of the counseling department, and I couldn't see the direction I needed by staying there. I got married that following summer, and ironically, when I was going back to Bardolph, our superintendent was a good old guy named Percy Yard, and Percy said, we're going to have a banquet coming up, and I'm digressing, but to tell you how I ended up at Quincy. And he says, we ought to have a speaker come in, like Red Rogers or something from Hamilton, whatever the guy's name was. I says, why don't we get John Thiel from Galesburg or Cheryl Hanks, from Quincy, because Bardolph was sort of in the middle between Galesburg and Quincy, and those were the big-time coaches of the year and Hall of Fame members. And so you can't get them. I called them, and we got Cheryl Hanks to come. And banquets at Bardolph are second to none because it's country cooking.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I love that stuff.
Yeah. And it was right off the farm. Everything's fresh, and oh my goodness, I'd weigh 300 pounds if I stayed in Bardolph very long. and they brought all this food in, and Cheryl came in and gave a talk. So that's how I got to know Cheryl Hanks. So a year later, I read in the bulletin that there's a job opening in Quincy, and I jumped on it. And since I had talked to Cheryl, I went down and interviewed, and then I got married to my first wife. My first wife passed away after 8 years of marriage. But I got married to my first wife that summer. She got a job teaching English in a junior high. I got a job teaching physical education at the senior high. And I was also a cross-country coach, and but head sophomore basketball coach the first year, and then assistant varsity the last 2 years. I was there 3 years. And that's where Cheryl Hanks was my mentor.
Yeah.
Cheryl was phenomenal. He was innovator of open gyms, innovator of camps, and he even learned from different people, like Virgil Fletcher from Collinsville. We weren't. He would play the ball press, 1-2-2, and we played a lot of that, and until we got Larry Moore and Jimmy Wisman, and we went to man-to-man in '72 when we finished second in the state.
We're going to have to take a break, Coach, but I also just did a thing on Adolph Rupp. That's how he got his job at Kentucky. He invited a speaker to come to a banquet. That's a good way of doing it, isn't it?
At Freeport High School?
Yes, he did. That's how he did it. He went from Freeport to Kentucky because they had a banquet. That is amazing. That is cool.
The only way I ever get to Freeport to Kentucky is to drive.
That's right. There we go. We're going to take a time out, and we're keeping Steve Goers here for the whole hour. I don't know. I've had fun already. This is great. We're going to take a time out. We'll be back with more of the State Line Sports Hour in just a moment here on News Talk 1440 WROK.
The most up-to-date political news.